Go ahead, Ms. Hong.
Great.
Yeah.
Welcome everyone to this session of the PPM World Tour. Um, we are having several extremely exceptional, talented, wise speakers with me. So I'm delighted to be with you and delighted to host this session. So let me tell you briefly about the PPM summits. So this year we had the last PPM summit in Basel in March, and before that it was in Bratislava. The year before it was in Berlin, but the next year the PPM summits are going to a completely new level. It will be, instead of a couple of summits, it will be a world tour. So there will be a PPM summit in Munich, London, Basel, Berlin, New York, Dubai, Mumbai, Philadelphia, and San Francisco. So so many locations. And what we are trying to do in these summits is always have this group of extremely curious project managers, people who are ready to dedicate their life to the world of project management and who are continuously learning and who want to help each other. So this is what brings together this PPM summit. And we are extremely happy to launch this webinar series, which gives you a little idea about how it looks, what kind of discussions, what kind of suggestions, what kind of ideas are discussed in these PPM summits. So let me introduce you to my speakers. So I'm Mithun Mrida. I'm based in Paris. I'm originally from India for more than 15 years in Europe. I work as an enterprise architect and PPM practice manager at Altran. My team is a team of experts from enterprise architecture. So we work a lot in project management, change management, and transformation. And my a big part of my life has been spent working on pharmaceutical projects. Then let me introduce my team. So we have Peter Carter Luca. He's a director and head of API Investment Project Office at Novo Nordisk, Denmark. So Peter leads strategically critical investment projects in the product supply division of Novo Nordisk, and he has more than 25 years experience in project management, more than 15 years experience in pharma, more than 14 years spent in USA. So really, truly global citizen. So glad to have Peter in the team. Then we have Amr Metwali. So he's originally from Egypt, now from based in Qatar, more than 20 years of international experience in project management. He's an award-winning architect. He's been working on project management, architectural design, healthcare operations, healthcare portfolios, and he's also a frequent speaker. So glad to have you on board. Let me introduce our third speaker in this panel, um, Vinicius. So Vinicius is Vinicius Monteiro, uh, all the way from Brazil. So he's a project management administrator at AbbVie Brazil since 2017. He has worked with mechanical project management for over 12 years now at AbbVie, responsible for capital projects. And he's a industrial designer and mechanical engineer by profession, with an MBA in project management and a PMP certified. So glad to have you. Um, so with this, I think we will start with our session. So the first session, where we want to know more about the impact of COVID on projects. We know that for these last months, it has been very, very unpredictable in the world of projects. We have seen so many strategies change. We have seen project organization being pushed to work in a very different way of, very different set of new rules, new ways of working, which had to be invented, new ways of supporting projects, and new ways of leading people. And with this, with our um, initiatives, I have seen so many new leaders emerge. I did see something very interesting adaptations that teams made. Sometimes I saw people who were extremely introverted, and I was worried about how they will adapt. And actually, they adapted way better than people who were more extroverted, more with the team. So lots of surprising ways that came up. So I just want to know more about it and from my team. So the first question is, how did COVID influence projects in your organization? So my question, let me start with Peter.
Okay, so thanks again, first of all, for the introduction and for the opportunity to participate. So how did COVID influence projects? Well, first of all, the pandemic hit at sort of a perfect storm time at Novo Nordisk, given that we have a very high level of project activity. So we immediately had to address this globally and across every element of delivery. We also established a COVID response team across Novo, led by our CEO, and there's essentially daily briefings going on so that we are aligned completely with what the Danish government is communicating, and that's being translated into operable corporate standards that we then in turn translate into operable project standards. So we immediately implemented sort of a hierarchical structure, starting with government guidelines, corporate guidelines, and then project guidelines. That then included whatever common sense issues there are around work from home when you can. When you can't, practice social distancing, not within 1 meter of each other. Plenty of ethanol on all tables. Plenty of ethanol wipes on all tables. This is a random meeting room I'm in, and that's everywhere. And then, of course, lots of use of technology. So it didn't per se influence our project strategy. We couldn't afford to stop projects, but we had to implement smart strategies for execution.
Wonderful. Thank you, Peter. And so I will give the floor to you, Amr, if you can also talk about how COVID influenced your projects.
Sure. So as you're aware, I'm related to the healthcare sector. And basically, when the pandemic happened and COVID faced all the world with the storm, with the new virus, healthcare as an industry, all the world expected not for them to just not only to sustain their service at the same level, but in fact to maximize, sometimes double or triple their capacity, their performance. And imagine how this is really affected with the same amount of resources, with the same amount of projects. It really was a big burden on the whole healthcare industry workers. Of course, when we had that, I think, and we faced this situation, you have to think on healthcare as a legacy. It's there for a long time. It's not really a very flexible and resilient industry. It has its own mindset. It's also for many years somehow it's resisting to change because, as I said, it has a legacy, it has long history. So change to begin with was not really very easy and very achievable. We started, in fact, to absorb that by making the right integration that all the healthcare system around the world they dream with. So we have to make sure that every single patient is related to the right segments and the right level of care that he received. Of course, it's affected also the communication because we found something very good that for the first time, all the peers, all the industry peers, they started to communicate the same language. They are all aiming for the same value and they are all speaking the same language. They are all heading toward the one target, which is to save the lives of humanity in Qatar or in the world as an equal. So we started to see some ecosystem, and this ecosystem started to proactively and positively move you toward your projects. That's why we found our projects influence positively after maybe a very short period. Once we start have this ecosystem in place, our supply chains started to be automated. Since we had some other projects we started before that, and luckily we were ready when it's happened. So I think it's influenced positively for the first maybe period, like few months. It was a bit as a big hit, but after that we found that no, we are actually absorbing this in very good manner. We started, in fact, to create a new initiatives, and we can discuss this, with other questions.
Thank you, Amr. And I will also give you the floor now, Vinicius. How did
Yeah.
COVID influence projects in your organization?
All right. First of all, I want to thank everyone for this opportunity and invitation. It's a pleasure to me talking about these teams. Project management is my obsession, and I think that I can contribute with some relevant information. Without any further ado, I'll tackle the question: how did COVID influence projects in our organization? That was a really big challenge for us. I think that for everyone. It's time to think outside the box. Who could imagine we would live in pandemic in 2020? So talking about the project, all triangle of scope was impacted. We try not change the schedule and costs. However, many changes were necessary. First, influenced by the exchange rate, most projects used imported material, and we needed to change the cash flow to absorb some extra expense, working with contingency to second, the resources were limited by the operation of the site. Many people worked remotely, and a lot of providers stopped working, missing, for example, disposable PPEs, such as masks, some materials for building, also some delay in equipment delivery and other things. Well, we need to change the people flow in the company, building material flow and building workers flow in the production area mainly, and common areas also. In a lot of risk register were generated on this period. You know, ABV Brazil has been working in the most important project of the plant for the last 5 years with the highest risk for the operation. We have been reforming a production line in the middle of the production area. And with the limited resources, we were obligated to postpone it in 4 months most of the critical activities. But on that time, we could plan better all those activities and put the project back on track in the final of this year. You know, our company work with lives. We need to take care of our customers, and we must not allow back orders. And people are more important than any project for us. So for this reason, we have been executing this project carefully, isolating the area for execution and working with with time of transition of people in that area, everything to prevent dissemination of COVID in order to prevent some contamination in the production area by another microorganism, for example. Also, we need to work more close, even if remotely, with the stakeholders to keep the engagement with all projects and meet our customers' expectation. That was what happened.
Thank you for sharing, Vinicius. Something I want to just inform everyone that as this video is live, and just want to remind you that all the speakers in the 2 sessions, they all are part of different companies, but they are the opinions which are expressed during this webinar. They are only personal web opinions, and they are not representing the company. So I just want to mention it. And with this, let me go to the second question. So what did you do to keep running your existing projects, and how did you start new projects during this period of COVID? So Peter, I give you the floor again.
Okay. Well, I think again we're at we're at a benefit where we physically are located, in particular in Denmark, that we have a very close alignment across both society and companies. So it's been very easy to reach out to our partners, whether it's engineering firms, contractors, third-party vendors, and essentially establish a common strategy for how we interact. This be it both with respect to office work. Again, I'm in what's called capital projects, which means we design and construct new test facilities or new production facilities. So our projects range from designing, but also into construction, commissioning, and validating. But dependent on where that project is in the pipeline, different strategies are applied. So for example, I'm running a project right now, which is in design, which means that we are working as possible in terms of working from home, working from remote sites, using technology, such as Teams or Zoom or what have you. You guys are doing the same, I'm sure. I think once you get into construction, it's a different story. You're very dependent on physical activity at physical locations. So where we have not been able to address the remote work, we've created local test centers. So within Novo Nordisk in our production, we have our own COVID-19 test center, where within hours you have an answer, whether you're positive or not. You're required to participate in that program if you're in certain projects, which enables a rapid response back to the participants. In addition to that, we're also using, where we're in operations or close, we're using technology for remote assist. Some of you might have heard of Microsoft's technology called HoloLens, which essentially is a pair of glasses where you can interact via the glasses into the systems. So we could have vendors remotely tagging along via HoloLens inside production or construction or design processes. So high level use of technology, high level use of remote work, lots of social distancing, and as I mentioned before, lots of ethanol and obviously no physical contact whatsoever, no social events. And by doing so, we effectively can maintain full operations, both in production and in projects.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Peter. And I will give the floor now to Amr. So what did you do to keep your projects running? All the existing projects, and what did you do to start new projects during this period?
So as we mentioned, as I mentioned in the beginning, when this pandemic happens, rapidly, Qatar, they announced the initiation and of a rapid COVID response committee called SWIC, and they started to have a very clear pathways with a number of projects that we need to achieve, from strategic, from construction, from all aspects of the healthcare industry in Qatar. And of course, as you are aware, also Qatar is facing or expecting a very big event, World Cup in 2022. So to begin with, we already had a very long project track to go with in order to prepare for such a big event with a big volume of people coming to and visiting the country. So it was a bit shock for us, because in addition to this, we need to continue or maintain the continuity of those projects. On the same time, we have another list of the big projects like field hospitals, maximizing the efficiencies of all hospitals so we can maximize the number of patients, improve the critical care level, including all the training of our resources, nurses, doctors. So it was a bit, we faced two pathways here. We need to maintain that, and we need to initiate a new projects. On the beginning, we had to go with prioritize those project list, what's really is helping and serving for the rapid COVID response. However, later we started to also make and form innovation committees, which was open for all the staff and healthcare workers. And I think they came up with a very good new initiatives for improve efficiencies, for how we get more preparedness to the new norm after we are, inshallah, this COVID pandemic gone. So, of course, the projects we started to impose automation more and more in in all of our processes. We started also to, as I mentioned, we started to establish some good supply chain, make very good connection with all the local suppliers. So because at some point we were limited with very important material, whether the medical, exactly like Vinicius said. Also, like Peter said, we came with a new strategy, a new digitalization platform for all of our operation, for diagnostics, for coming. This has also helped in collecting the data where people, they started to think, because priority not from our side, it's also from the patient side. So we start to face dramatic decrease from the patient they came to the ED, as an example, because unless you are very severe a patient, you will not come to the ED. So this also helps somehow to absorb the volume of patient and volume of care expected.
Thank you, Amr, for sharing your insights. And I will give the floor now to Vinicius. So can you please continue the answer? So how did you keep your existing projects running, and what did you do to start new projects during this period?
Yeah. For a period of time, we worked remotely from home, almost 60 days. This period was important to prioritize the activities, and a lot of activities were removed off our schedule. All these activities, which were not important for us, but it was going on because we were not able to see on the daily basis. Silly activities such as print some documents, draw some possible layout changes, and any other things just for study, just for the sake of it. So at that moment, we were only focused on the main activities. When we returned to the plant, these silly activities did not happen anymore, and we could use time to plan better. I'm just talking about the engineering, project maintenance, qualification, and quality departments. Some departments, as supply chain, finance, HR, and people from risk group, are back to work in person. They keep working remotely, and I think that they won't get back anymore. Just the departments, isn't it? And for production area, they return gradually. So in the first moment on this return, the project department could check some utilities in the site that we couldn't check during the operation of the production, and we were able to carry out the small projects without the interference of the operation. And we had time to think and plan better the major projects. When it comes to some new projects, it was priority to develop regulatory requirements for specialized agencies as health and drug surveillance, for example. And we usually ask for the capital normally, but the approval was not as fast as it used to be before COVID era. Our approvers were more careful to approve due to the uncertainty of the schedule presented and the exchange rate risk, because it became bigger than before, but we could start 6 new projects in this pandemic time with capital around $1 million, and we have a good results during this year. That was what happened.
Thank you, Vinicius. Really insightful, especially to see how operationally teams are being impacted. Yeah. We are getting quite a few interesting questions, so we'll go to them later. But we have another question that we had already prepared, and so this my next question is: how do you see future of projects in post-COVID-19 era? So with this, I give the floor back to Peter.
Well, I think all the stuff we haven't said yet, which I think is because it's obvious that for years and years and years, we've been talking about use of technology instead of travel. I remember implementing systems in the early zeros that promised that. It stayed as promises. It never really happened. I think we've been forced to make use of this technology. I don't think in the history of man, we've all become bigger super users of one system called Teams. So I think that also breaks down some of the barriers for the type of technology that is out there, which I think will persist on the other side of a vaccine. I also think that there's obviously a cost aspect to that, but there's also an efficiency aspect to that. I think we've also broken down a lot of barriers around the notion of working from home, which always had an undercurrent of right, sure you are, which is beyond us because our bosses tried working from home, our boss's boss. We've seen each other's living rooms because we're on teams together. So I think there's a lot of opportunity in breaking down some of the more classic barriers that we've claimed for years we were working on, but we now had to do. I'm convinced that that's going to stay. Another aspect I found to be very interesting is I have a dear colleague in the pharmaceutical industry in Switzerland, where HR has proclaimed it's no longer really very relevant to us where you live. Live where you want, work where we need you. Whether you live in Denmark and work in Switzerland, not my business. So I think this has also shown that that's possible in a project world, in particular in capital projects. We're very used to that type of remoteness, but I think that's going to have a much broader impact. And I certainly welcome that because it does make us more efficient. And I also summarily think that we will start questioning non-value added processes because we've frankly been able to show how well we actually ended up functioning in this type of a framework, which brings up the question, what were all those people doing before? So I think that that's something in particular in a project world where we have to do, always are challenged to do more with less, that we have now proven that it can be done, at least in our side of the fence. And that's going to persist for years to come. Personally, we've started doing media training because we do more of this type of communication. So it's very important that you remember to look into the camera, that you turn on your camera in advance of the meeting. Remember how long it took to get on a Teams meeting before COVID. There was always 5 minutes onboarding because we were all fiddling with the microphone. So all those things have professionalized our remoteness, and I think that will persist, and I welcome that.
I love this, your phrase, professional your remote, professionalize your remoteness. That's so relevant. And I guess I really like the idea that you could live anywhere you want, but you should be there where you are needed. And I think that's really a big change in the mindset, in the trend of HR and recruitment. So I think it would be great to see how it evolves over time. So with this, I will give the floor to the next speaker, Amr. So how do you see the future of projects in a post-COVID era?
Yeah, I think that the big positive thing we faced out of the COVID, it's that we started to really think why we used to think that this is impossible to be done. We have many years, myself and many other like me, they advocated for imposing digitalization and high tech to the healthcare. And it's always the answer that it's not possible, it's not resilient enough, it's not. However, with time, we started to see, no, it is in fact possible. And we started to see very important segments in this industry, which is the patient. They are very well receiving in it. In fact, they are asking us to impose more and more. So I think if we have an answer for how we so far sustained our situation during the COVID, the first answer everyone will tell you is the high technology and the IT and the AVs and this was the answer, right? So I think more and more this will be started to impose in our frameworks. This will be start to something very important to achieve. All of our frameworks will be again remodel, implementing the IT and high tech in there more and more. And no more we will listen to resistance about resilience or impeding or is not fitting the culture or is not really from humanity perspective is workable. I think those resistance and answers will no longer be here. Exactly, Peter, I think when he said you can work in any place, mobility, as you are aware, that healthcare, it was extremely far as a concept from healthcare. We always think in a facility that Some patients need to come and be within physically in this facility. Mobility is one form of a new thinking, a new innovation, I think, around mobility, how we can implement that and we move it forward and forward. One thing we understood as well, that you cannot work in silo. It doesn't mean that the industry, I work in silos within my industry. No, big other industries, they help us during this COVID pandemic. Hospitals need to be working in this very integrative way, and they are all works together toward one target and within one ecosystem that is really resilient. I think we need also to design our healthcare facility. We can be able to work for a specialized hospital. We are so situation. I saw a situation myself where we need to put patients in corridor and create patient rooms within the corridors. Imagine if our hospital is designed and is built in a very big and agile and resilient way, how this can be ease and facilitate our fight with COVID. I think the last point is the procurement system, because as a government, it's a quite delicate subject, because we have tender, we have transparency, and we find ways to achieve procurement and to start to impose very good supply chain in a very short time, and we absorb it, and all of our staff is absorbed. So this is make a question why it was not done properly before that. This is, I think, also the form of contract, the form of procurement system. It will be changed, it will be improved, and should be evolved to face any new challenges in the future.
Thank you, Amr. Really, I absolutely agree that this is the way to go, and more towards a systems thinking and a systems approach, a connected approach, and we should be more going to a stakeholder-centered approach in project management. I see the same, and I think we also need more humility. That's the situation has shown us, and I can quote C.S. Lewis, who said, "Humility is not thinking less of yourself; it is thinking of yourself less." So, with this, I give the floor next to Vinicius. How do you see the future of projects in a post-COVID era?
Yeah, I'm totally agree with you guys. In the same way, the lessons learned in this period were, in a way, never seen before. We increased our organizational process assets on this time. The last pandemic was a long time ago, and the project on that time was a drawing a paper, a Gantt graphic, and a purchasing list, definitely. You know, all project managers have the skill to fastly adapt to change, and we can see how emphasized it is in the 6th edition of the PPM guide. We use this skill to increase our procedures and to act fastly. Well, I think that this skill has increased inside the project manager society too. Um, the way of working has changed for the good, and I hope it goes on like that. We are more focused on solutions. We will use more technology. A lot of tools have been created and implemented too, and we have reduced costs working as a virtual team. And I truly think that we will keep working that way in the future. Um, and I think that the most difficult that we will have is to use the technical of collocation, you know. But increasing the virtual team, we can balance these techniques and resources. That is what I think.
Thank you, Vinicius, for sharing your ideas. I see that we have a lot of very enthusiastic questions, very inquisitive ones, and actually I don't know if we'll be able to answer all of them, but let's start with them. So I will you can start answering them. So the first one is what are you doing to celebrate success in your projects? How do you motivate team members? How do you boost morale? So this question comes from Lauren. So how do you celebrate success, motivate team members, and boost morale? Uh, so I see you smiling, Vinicius. So if you,
No, yeah.
if you,
Uh,
you want to share.
it's difficult to talk about the some prize for projects because we can't celebrate in person, you know. I'm just, I don't know. I think that only remotely we can celebrate the success of projects only in this year before the vaccine, I think.
Peter, if you want to share something on your ideas to celebrate success and motivate.
And thanks for starting with Vinicius, that I had to get a little more time to think.
You're
I
welcome.
think I have to second. I would agree that that's a very good question and something we need to be doing a lot more of. Um, we again, because we have been able to work side by side throughout the entire process.
Yeah.
We have colleagues in all public agencies. They all have to work from home. They've been working from home since March. They're so envious of our ability to physically be together that we are frankly feeling that that's a celebration every day that we can actually be in a room together. When that's said, I think I'd like to make a little comment about what Denmark is doing. We've had since March, we've been having Friday singing sessions on television together where people are singing and videoing each other, sending it in and so forth. So we spend a lot of time in society maintaining that social glue. And so we can lean on that in times like this. But it's a really good question that I'm going to take back with me and bring as a challenge how I can make
Yeah.
sure that we do more of this, because we can always recognize each other more as we move forward.
Uh, Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Amr, do you want to add something to what Peter
Yeah,
shared?
of course. I think we saw a lot of videos in YouTube how really healthcare workers front lines, they are rewarded, and how they are everyone celebrating their achievements. This for us it was extremely emotional, and we saw very good initiatives in Qatar, from Qatar Metro, from Qatar Airways, from all social entities in Qatar and different sectors. They started to reward and praise, I think, the front line. And for us, it was very emotional. It's really relieved us from all the burden we saw during the months of for COVID fighting.
Thank you. Yeah, I saw also for some very interesting ways of celebrations. So one of them that I really liked was where people had all they would put the party hats on, and that was like on video, seeing everyone with their crazy hat after a long day of project work to celebrate the success. That was really interesting. And one of my friends, she was hosting a meeting where there was she managed to get a real DJ, so that's a virtual DJ, so that's also a very interesting way. I think we should celebrate more. I still remember one of my past projects in Belgium a long time back, where we used to have a real celebration. So, for example, every time we had a 3-month long period of no accidents, had a real dinner, a barbecue in the outside on the site, on the construction site, and where all the pharma teams, also the business teams and technical teams, they would all be there. So let's move to the next question. We have so many interesting questions. So next question comes from Michelle Concourse. How do you manage change in teams, onboarding of new team members, knowledge transfer between new and old team members? So Peter, if you want to
Sure.
comment.
We essentially have tried to make the digital space as much an everyday normal environment as possible, so that any type of transaction, whether it's onboarding or offboarding or training, can occur in the same way as we do one-on-ones or team meetings. So I wouldn't say we've implemented any specific new initiatives other than essentially keep driving home the point that wherever we are physically and where we are mentally does not have to be the same. It needs to make sense. And back to the point of, I want to make sure that the learnings out of this are carried into a post-COVID-19 pandemic space so that we work intelligently in all aspects of projects, whether it's change management or scope change or project kickoff sessions or inactive planning sessions or one-on-ones, all elements that I personally have found that you quickly forget once you've met each other once or twice physically, how you meet the next time. I feel connection to you guys as you're in Paris and Brazil and Qatar, even though this is the second time we meet. So I think we've all moved our boundaries of what's a meaningful social interaction so that we can actually get on with our work in terms of what it might be, change management or knowledge sharing.
Thank you, Peter. Vinicius, you want to share something, add something to what Peter said?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with Peter. And you know, for the team, our resources, we tried to not change our resources. All members of the team here in the company, but we changed the way of working. We just working remotely with meetings, online meetings. We did some. We are doing some meetings remotely, online, isn't it? And you know, I don't know if in we have the expectation for this new year after COVID area, but I don't know how about the resources, how we can do that, you know.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's an uncertainty.
Yeah, absolutely. And I keep thinking about also the point, which is the knowledge management part. I think part of it is easy. We can create portals.
Yeah,
We can share. But when it comes to really retrieving the data over, especially when you are going through a restructuring or when you are going through a major change where companies are being merged,
yeah.
or in that kind of condition, when in a physical world we can transfer those things, physical data, information, processes. We can also transfer the knowledge quite easily. So Amra, you want to add something to this about how you see change?
As you know, also it's in healthcare, we started to see a lot of rotation between staff. So if you work in one place, then suddenly you are in a different hospital with different group. I think we established very well rotations framework and introduction, and I think this is absorbed very well by the staff. Impose more virtual training and even more simulation medical training. Something we found it really fun with simulation and training more and more. So digital, I think, also again that give us the answer.
Thank you, Amr. So I think we have a few more questions which were more on the future of managing projects, challenges. So I think those topics are already covered in the questions, which will be in the next session, which is starting just right now. So I'm so delighted again to have this opportunity to share the stage with you, Peter, Amr, and Vinicius. And thanks for sharing all these your ideas, your experiences with this audience. And sure I'm sure we'll get to see each other more in the next months, in other sessions, and also in the PPM Summit again. So those from the audience who want to join us in the next session. So we'll be back in 2 minutes. So please stay tuned. We'll be back. Thank you, and
Thank you.
have a nice day.
Have a nice day, all.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Thank you.
See you. Take care of yourself.
Thank
You
you.
too.
You
Take
all.
care.
All right, bye.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Um, Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be joining. So, welcome to this session of the PPM World Tour, the webinar on which we'll be focusing on project management tips, especially in this context of post-COVID world. I have a, I will briefly tell you about PPM summits. So why Summits is organizing PPM World Tour in 2021, which is much more ambitious and much covers a lot more places than what you used to cover in the past. So World Tour in 2021 includes PPM summits in Munich, London, Basel, Berlin, New York, Dubai, Mumbai, Philadelphia, and San Francisco. So many exciting destinations. All those summits will be hybrid because we need to take into account that a part of the travel might be, we might have restrictions. So it will be available for audiences to join physically or virtually. And these webinars are the way to give you an idea about what actually it looks like, the sessions of the PPM Summit, and also have a look at my very wise, experienced, and talented speakers who are joining me today, so that you can have a look also at the kind of content which we present in the PPM summits. And the idea is also to really talk, ask questions, and discuss about this field of project management, which is so dear to me and to so many of you. So let me start by introducing my esteemed speakers. So let me start with my first speaker, Antonio Nito Rodriguez. He's a world champion of project management, and I have so much to say about him, but it's always so less to say. He's the author of lead successful projects, the project revolution, the focused organization, and these three books. He has published so many articles. He has been frequent speaker in so many international congresses and project management conferences. He won the Ideas into Practice award for the Thinkers 50. He's ranked 17th in the Global Gurus in the top 30, and he's fluent in 5 languages. So really impressive. He's born in Madrid, educated in Germany, Mexico, Italy, and now based in Belgium and in London. So, Antonio, welcome, and we are so fortunate to have you, especially as you have served as a global chairman of PMI in 2016. So very, very glad to have you. I'll introduce our next speaker, Monica Sharma. So Monica has a biochemistry background. She has worked in formulation projects, CMC projects, and then she slowly moved towards project management roles, more on a portfolio approach. So she has an extensive program management knowledge and experience in the drug development industry, leading global teams, driving product development and process improvement initiatives in the US. So glad to have you join us, Monica. I'll present you the next speaker, Patrick Kamba. So Patrick is founder and chief executive of PK Pharma Consult Belgium. He has more than 12 years of experience in the pharmaceutical industry, and he is currently working as a project management lead on COVID-19 vaccine development. So I guess a lot of the people in the audience might have questions for you. So thanks for joining us, Patrick. I know this project is extremely ambitious, and so many things changing, and from your time we can really learn a lot. Let me introduce you our next speaker, Miguel Ibarra. So Miguel is a medical doctor by training. He has a has an MBA from the IS Business School in Spain. He has worked in life science for over 30 years. He has spent last 15 years at C-suite levels as general manager, both at domestic and international level. His main focus is on international and multicultural leadership performance. And today's global world, we really need leaders like you, Miguel, who can connect cultures and bridge the gaps. So excited to have you all here. Without losing a minute, I will move to the questions that we have. Yeah, and I will briefly introduce myself. I'm Mithun Mrida. I'm based in Paris. I am working in a team of enterprise architects. So we work more on transformation, enterprise transformation, and project management and change management. I have spent the major part of my life working on pharmaceutical projects, pharmaceutical portfolios, and restructuring of pharmaceutical portfolios. I also teach in a few business schools. And I love speaking to audiences and traveling. So that's, I think, traveling and meeting different cultures. That's what really keeps me going. And projects are a beautiful way of connecting the worlds. It's an art. Project management is an art and a science, and that's what it's a mix of so many skills, and you can keep learning all the time, and that's what keeps me in this field. So let me move to the first question for this session. What are your best top three tips to manage and lead teams in 2021? So I give the floor to Antonio.
Thank you, Mithun. Thank you for the invitation. Hi, all the panel, and it's a pleasure to be here. So in terms of leadership, I think what we've seen with the COVID is that people need to focus. I think this is one of the biggest advantages. You cannot do all the projects anymore. You need to make choices, and you need to make choices about the most important projects. So I think in terms of leadership, we're finally seeing the benefits of being focused for what are the key projects that we need to invest to survive, and then which projects we need to invest to turn around, to transform the business into the new reality. So I think that will be, for me, the biggest lessons for leadership is the importance of focus, the importance of clarity on where we want to go, what are the top projects we need to invest our time to turn around and go through these times. So that would be my quick answer to a very broad question.
Thank you, Antonio. And absolutely, can't agree more with you. I move. Let's move to the. I'll let my next speaker, Monica. Can you please tell us what are your top three tips to manage and lead teams in 2021?
Absolutely. Thanks, Mithun, for the invitation, and I'm really glad to be here and share some insights. I think one thing we have learned from COVID is how unprepared we were, whether it's from an industry perspective, whether it's from a regional or a national perspective. So for me, the key thing going into 2021 is about being mindful, being flexible, understanding what your team's drivers are, right? Whether it's getting the work done, whether it's from a resource perspective, or whether it's from a performance or a behavioral perspective. And then, it's about selecting the technology. As we all talked about or heard in the previous session as well, a lot of people are remote. So there is social isolation. And so using the right technology that works for the organization, that works for the people in the organization is very important. I don't say like that we have to go and look at new technologies. It could be something that's already in-house, but how to use that more effectively and get the best out of the teams. And then last but not the least, we understand what the human capital is. We understand what the financial capital is. Those are sort of finite resources, but understanding the psychological capital, how can we support our team members that are in different locations? So I think those would be a few things to keep in mind going into 2021 and with COVID being there. Thanks.
Thank you, Monica. I absolutely agree. You have to upgrade technology, but at the same time, you have to upgrade each individual in your teams so that the whole team as a community, we get upgraded and we have a new way of working and new level of leadership. Great. So I move to the next speaker, Patrick. What are your top three tips to manage and lead teams in 2021?
So thank you for this opportunity to contribute. I will start by saying that I would say at first, be a servant leader, because, we are all struggling with this new normal, okay? Make sure that things are moving forward. Basic examples, you are working in your bedroom while actually you have some kids, in another room, or you have to take care of your parents that are getting old. So be there for your colleagues also, because they might be struggling with all of this. That is one thing. Another one, even to go beyond that, is do check-in. How do your colleagues are coping with all of these changes, all of these uncertainties, maybe some technical or logistic issues with IT or just organization of their daily activities. So be there for them, because at the end, if they feel supported, encouraged, they will keep on performing well, I would say, personally, and of course, the team and the project will go in the right direction. And then to also keep on building on what Monica said about being flexible. It's also, don't hold yourself on anything, because what was impossible yesterday is suddenly possible today. So if you have any idea to just help your team be creative, etc., just try it. You would be surprised. That's my main messages. Thank you.
Love your phrase. What was impossible yesterday is possible today, and I think we have to also look at what will be possible tomorrow. With this, let me move to the next speaker, Miguel. What are your top three tips to manage and lead teams in 2021?
So first of all, thanks so much for inviting me to participate in this webinar. I have to say that I'm amazed about the level of the first webinar, so congratulations. And we will try just to keep the same level here. So I would like just to focus this question from probably a little different perspective to my colleagues, because my function in the last 15 years has been pretty much related to how to connect these project teams with the management. So I can see, this way of working from outside, and my function here is just to say, how can I support the teams? How can I just contribute, provided the current situation? And I would just focus my three tips into the following. First of all, we do need to be humble and courageous at the same time. So I think that the times we are having up front are completely different to the ones we were living a few years ago. And therefore, it's very important to be humble, to accept the opinion of the rest of the people, just to listen a lot, to be very open to all comments coming from other sources. Second, I would say that we have just to be open-minded. Who is able to manage all variables we have up front in these moments? No chance just to do it by himself, by oneself. So it's very important to consider other opinions, other sources, other ways of working. So not contribute to create silos. Very important. Another thing just to be considered is pace. The pace the world is going in these moments is by 10 the pace we had 5 years ago. So it's very important again to be open to work as a teamwork, with the idea of avoiding to be obsolete, just to become obsolete. I would say that the VUCA term is already obsolete. We have other factors already contributing to, for example, acceleration, the trade-offs. So in the past, we were choosing between black or white, night or day. Now, both together at the same time. So it's not a matter of choosing one of them, but to manage both at the same time. So last not least, I would adhere creativity and innovation. I think that creativity and innovation has become an attitude. It's not a punctual moment we have, it's an attitude. We do need critical thinking. And last not least, within creativity and innovation, I would add one point which was already discussed in the former webinar, but I think is key, which is motivation. So we are speaking about people. Perhaps we have the COVID, or we can have in the future different stuff, whatever, but we are still people. And we do need to motivate ourselves to be able just to move forward, just to be resilient enough to be able to keep this creativity and innovation. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Miguel.
Mitten, if I may just make a quick comment.
Yeah.
I totally agree with what Miguel and Patrick and Antonio touched upon. I think one key thing that we are doing as an organization is to avoid that isolation for employees who are increasingly remote and keep them motivated, institute check-ins. And these check-ins are not just about work, but it's about just the social and the mental health of the employee. So one of the things that we do when we do these check-ins is not start with asking about work, but just ask about, hey, how's it going? Are you okay? Do you need any support from any perspective? And I think that human connection and building on that really helps not only get the work done, but also keeping the engagement and keeping the employee plugged in.
Absolutely, and thank you for underlying that, Monica. I think we are in these moments more in need of this human connection than ever, and I think there used to be a tendency of being more connected at all times and still being disconnected from each other. So this digital divide which is happening, I think we have to get over that, and we have to still stay human, because that's the way that we can succeed and stay as a community, as a as mankind to in the future. If you want to adapt, and I think we have to first stay together, stay connected, if we want to go for the challenges of tomorrow. So let me move to the next question. I will address it first to you, Antonio. So what is your best leadership lesson to give from the COVID-19 impact?
Well, I think from a global perspective, leadership had been under a lot of scrutiny. We've seen many leaders behaving really bad, top leaders in the world becoming very selfish. So I think the concept of leadership has been completely destroyed. And we are going through a phase where we can recreate leadership in a different way with the concepts that have been shared here by Monica, Miguel, and Patrick. I think who manages to go through these difficult times, putting people first before profits, will in the long term come out as great leadership. I think unfortunately not all the businesses can put profit before people. And it's easier to say, yes, we're going to put people before profit. But I think it requires a lot of courage from leadership to do that. And I do believe that the great leadership examples come from people or leaders who have put people before profit. There's few, but this is for me what should drive the future.
Thank you, Antonio. Yeah, absolutely. I can't agree more. So let me move to Monica. What is your best leadership lesson to give from this COVID impact?
So I think, excuse me, I think with any situation, communication is key. We are talking about project portfolio management, but when we come to leaders, even more so, communication, right? It's not only about the quantity of the communication, but also the quality of the communication. I think the responsibility lies with the leaders to give a message that is realistic, that gives hope, but also communicates the variables that could come in the future and impact employees and the company from a holistic perspective. The other thing I think, in crisis lies an opportunity, right? That's how I approach things. In this crisis, for leaders, it is a time to reflect on the core and the core mission for the company and the core values. So taking time to recognize the employees, lauding people who are going above and beyond. And I think in the previous session, somebody asked about how can we applaud people. It could be a shout out on social media. We all are on LinkedIn, right? So just giving the employees kudos. It could be a shout out on the intranet. It could be at a stand-in meeting, just starting with saying thank you. So communicating that, rediscovering and focusing on the core mission values. I think those are some of the things that are important from a leadership perspective, especially given the times we are in.
Thank you, Monica. Absolutely agree with your suggestions and with your ideas. Patrick, what is your best leadership lesson to give from the COVID impact?
I would say in these moments of crisis and chaos, I would remind that focus helps to go fast. That's really the key message here. Don't feel distracted. Don't try to do everything, because at the end, the trend in terms of human being is to say that if you do things quickly, maybe you go fast. But actually, you may have to stop at first, plan, okay, review your plan, check what things maybe you can decide not to do, so that you can focus, and you would be surprised. You might go very, very fast. And of course, that relates to what said my three colleagues here. It's about courage also, because then you would have to go to your senior management and top management to say, we will not do this and this task because we want to focus. You will have to go to people and be human and say, okay, we agree that it is too much to you. We remove this from you, okay? And of course, communication and alignment, because you might decide to focus, but if you are alone, some other people will come back to you and say, okay, we would like to do this and this task. So communication again and again on the key decisions that have been taken, so that as a team, as a project, or even as a company, you really focus and you will go fast. That is for sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick, for your ideas. And I'll move to Miguel. So what is your top best leadership lesson to give from the COVID impact?
I would sum up this leadership lesson in the phrase, we cannot work individually anymore. And reason why is one thing who was explaining Monica before is pretty much related to how companies want to be profitable in the future. So it's clear that the current business models, the business models we were following in the past, probably will not be profitable in the future. So we have just to work in different way. And for this, one important point here is our purpose as companies. So why are we here? So which is the glue we have to work together, provided that we have this dispersed situation that probably will remain at least in part in the future. So in summary, I think that because the world is becoming more complex, because of the pace of the marketplace, because of the fast obsolescence of the business models, we will need this why, this purpose. We will need communication. Fully agree with Patrick and with Monica. And I think that we have just to react faster with, for example, post-mortem analysis, provided that everything we have up front will be brand new to all of us. So how can we keep this this unity, this purpose as being common to all of us, provided that probably the scenario in the future will be completely different.
Yeah, thank you. Can't agree more. I feel like we see so many visible differences actually when we look at global project teams, and actually if you go beyond the visible differences, you can go deep beneath. We are all human, and we all have similar needs. We might be having a bit different way to communicating or going for our solutions, but finally there is a lot of common, and I think that's a part of leadership that we can stick to in projects if we really create a more inclusive atmosphere and if we connect with each other better. Just to the audience, I want to just remind you that since this discussion is all live on Facebook and LinkedIn, all the speakers here, they are representing their personal opinion here. Although they are from different companies, the opinions discussed and expressed here are only their personal opinions and doesn't represent the company. With this, let me move to the next question. Antonio, what are your best 3 tips to do when projects get into difficulties?
Well, let me take the question a bit differently too. I think we're in a transition phase where we need to reinvent project management. Project management has been done in the same way for 40 years. So I think we have the opportunity now to transform, to make the new project management and the new project managers. So a few trends. 80% of the current task of a project manager will be done by artificial intelligence in a few years. We think that artificial intelligence is just for retail, logistics, supply chain. No, it's going to impact project management. 4 days out of 5 for what we're doing today is going to be taken over by artificial intelligence, which is great because we do a lot of admin work and chasing people and reporting. We shouldn't be doing that. We should focus on the people. Second, the current role of the PMO. PMOs are setting hierarchies. Hierarchies are models of the past. We're moving into agile world where you work in project-based teams. So the way we see PMOs, and we've learned for that for many years, it's the end. So we need to reinvent PMOs too. And the last thing, I think we need to focus on benefits. Today, we do plans based on deliverables. Deliverables are the internal kitchen, and nobody cares about that. The stakeholders want to see impact, benefit. So I think the plans of the future should be benefit-driven. So when are we going to get that results? When are we going to start people benefit from our vaccine? When are we going to start? That's where we need to focus. We need to focus much more externally on the benefits, on the purpose, on the and forget about the internal deliverables and all that. So I think we're in a great phase because we're what I call the project economy, but we need to really shake up the profession, the methods. Maybe just the last one of the common mistakes, which I did for years, is using one approach to all the projects, using a project management methodology for any type of projects. First, it was traditional, then we moved into agile. And that's one of the biggest mistakes in the profession because we should be able to know and use different methods. We cannot fix all the problems with one hammer. So companies should have a variety of tools depending on the program and the change to use a bit of agile, a bit of traditional project management, some program management, some prototyping, design think, continuous improvement. So I think we need to evolve towards knowing what to use, how to use it, how to engage the people. So I think the future is bright if we manage to transform this project management profession now.
Thank you, Antonio, and especially on the benefits. I have been into so many initiatives where I set up the KPIs, the ways of really tracking the benefits, and a lot of times organizations move into the trap that they track the benefits for a very short period, just after the delivery of the projects. And I think that's actually seeing it very short term, because the real benefit you get is over many years. And if you really can track that benefit, if you can see what is where the projects are contributing to, I think the teams working on those projects will be much more engaged in the first place. Let me move to the next speaker, Patrick. What are your 3 best tips to do when projects get into difficulties?
So I would start by telling you a very, very short story about a discussion I had with a close friend who is a pilot. He told me one day, you know, when you have to take up your I would say your aircraft, you go from one place to another, make it land is very easy. Even my grandmother could do it. No, really, he said that. I would not be able to do it, but okay. Then I said, but then what is so difficult? He said, you know, when you are a pilot, it's when it's difficult that you show your added value. And the difference between a good and, in a way, a bad pilot is when there are some difficulties about the weather, technical issues with the aircraft, and you can land it safely. My point beyond this is that when you are in difficulties with your project, at first I would say accept it, because it's a project. Who have ever run a project that went so smoothly? I'm still looking for a project that runs smoothly, by the way, after more than 12 years. Our added value is when you are in difficulties. Your job is to go back on track, to communicate, to make the things smoother, and etc. So at first we accept it. That's not a surprise. Then what we have to do, and to come back to the benefits and the objectives and etc., is, are there real difficulties or only perceptions, emotions, etc.? Because if you keep on having in mind what are the real objectives, the real benefits, and etc., are you so far from them? That is a general question that I would ask for all of us. And then if that's really the case, then we sit as a team, we discuss what are the objectives, what do we have to do, and again, come back to the focus and execution. And then you just monitor and etc. And then a final tip would be, don't forget to communicate, because it's easy to communicate good news. Anybody can do it. That's really easy. I can say, okay, I go to my boss and say, okay, the building will be ready on time. We'll have new customers. We can go live with the new IT systems. That is easy. Anybody can do. You don't need to be a project manager to do that. Our added value is when there are some difficulties, some bad news. So we have to decide to go to the sponsor, N+1, and etc. And this is the right tip, actually, that we should keep in mind, is communicate also the bad news. Of course, with the plan to go back on track, etc. Of course, but be able to communicate the bad news. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. And I come originally from India, and in India we always say that you know, you should always have everything with a bit of something bitter. If you have a sweet, you should have it with something bitter, so that you should not forget that not everything is sweet, and you should always be prepared for the next moment when you'll be tasting something bitter. With that, I go to the next speaker, Miguel. What are your best 3 tips to do when projects get into difficulties?
Okay, again, as I was saying before, so I'm trying just to consider the situation from out of the project team, being a sponsor or being part of the steering committee. And after so many years working in projects, of course, some of them failed. But then we have just to consider what's going on now. What is going on now is much more complexity and uncertainty. Therefore, as leaders, we have to be pretty conscious about that. And therefore, based on that, the first thing I would say is trust the team in charge and motivate, because probably they will fail, or they will fail more than they did in the past because of this scenario. So I think that is much more important as leader to help to remove the potential roadblocks. Again, this complexity, this uncertainty will add a lot of, additional barriers that we have to overcome. So it's very important from outside to be there to clear up potential problems which will arise probably because we don't know the scenario we are living in the short term. And last not least, I would say that even the best projects can fail. It was, the rule in the past, and as I was just saying, it will happen again, probably more often. What I would say here is that fail, accept the failure, but fail faster, because we do need to recover the situation. We will need to learn faster what we did in the past.
Thank you, Miguel. Absolutely agree. We need more. We need to learn fast, and actually, that's one of my philosophies. It doesn't matter how much you know. What matters is how fast you learn. Let's move to the audience questions, because we have some excellent questions, and already I want to congratulate all of you, because there are so many positive comments on the content that has been yeah.
Can I make a just quick comment? I resonate, what everyone else said, but I think when projects get into difficulty, I look at it as an opportunity. It's the opportunity to take a pause, throw away perceptions, force yourself to criticize your own plan, right? Because what happens sometimes when projects get into difficulties is you throw cash after cash. So when a project is in difficulty, it's time to kind of take a pause and say, am I going to be married to my sunk costs, or am I going to sink more costs after the sunk costs, right? So that's something to think about. And then it's also about creating a great change story, right? If you're talking about salvaging a project, can you create a change story that's going to communicate the urgency of getting that project out of difficulty? And then, of course, the task-based stuff, there are a lot of things one can do, and the speakers touched upon that. So just wanted to add that. As
thank you. Wonderful. Thank you, Monica. And I really feel that that's very relevant in our times. Even if we are working more in virtual, I think what blinds us as project managers or as human beings, the cognitive biases, they are still there. So sunk cost fallacy is still a big problem. People still want to look, sponsors want to look that they are coherent with their former decisions, and there is so much of bias in the decision making. So we have to go beyond that, and I absolutely believe we have to see how we have to communicate those emergency situations without getting into the politics of things. How we have to really go to touch the crux of the situation in a more neutral, in a more persuasive manner, so that we have real change following. Let me move to the audience questions. So we have a question from one of my friends who's joining us from all the way from Australia, Sunil Sharma. So his question is, what are some key leadership skills that you think some organizations and countries that let some organizations and countries manage COVID better than others? So I'll repeat the question. What are some of the key leadership skills that you think let some organizations and countries manage COVID better than others?
Let me go first. I've done a bit of research for an article, and what came across is that some of the most successful countries were led by women. And I think that's a reflection point. Maybe it's the time for the woman, and what can we learn from women so that we can be better leaders? I cannot be specific enough. I don't have the details, but that was a moment of, yeah, we need to learn more from women. Instead of women learning from men, we should learn from them how to be better leaders.
Thank you, Antonio. Miguel, do you want to add something to this?
From my perspective, Antonio, you're right. This is, I guess, part of the women profile. And I think that one skill which is pretty much related to that is humility. I think that the mixture between politics and leadership is not the right one, you know. And probably when you are a leader, you need to be humble, you need to be persuasive, you need to be courageous, and you need to be good listener and good communicator. And honestly, I don't think we have too many politicians compiling these skills, which are, to me, the most important ones for being a leader. Therefore, I do really think that some of the women we have wearing the helmet in some countries are really much better than the men on that. But to me, this would be the right set, the same as we need to be a good company leader. With more reason, just to be the leader of the country.
Thank you. Yeah,
I have a
Monica.
I have a quick comment here. So outside of the gender piece, and I look at this as you would look at a team, right? There are stakeholders. So I think the countries that did better, in my opinion, are the ones that leverage their stakeholders. What I mean by that is the scientists, right? They let the scientists speak to what needed to be done from a scientific perspective, but not from a jingoistic personal viewpoint perspective. And the other thing that worked for countries that handled this crisis better is they parcel things into solutions that are short-term and that are long-term. Short-term means putting PPE equipment requirements in place, whether it's from a people perspective, whether it's from an organizational perspective, providing the people who are at front line with enough PPE so that the spread could be affected. So it's about having short and long-term strategies, and it's about leveraging your stakeholder set with the right knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Monica. And we have a comment on that from Ellen Nicholson, that maybe New Zealand and Germany had good communication strategies and PM skills too. And Dr. Jochen Bouquet also says that the strong animation helps as well. I absolutely agree. Patrick, do you want to add something to what has been already said on this?
Yes, I would add also the in a way, the team spirit or the nation spirit, if I can call it like this, and also discipline, because for the country who managed better, I would say, individually, they understood that if they are disciplined, okay, if they take the right measures, their neighbors, okay, their team member, their co-workers, and etc., will be also positively affected. So everybody took, I would say, individual actions for them, but also to help the next person. That is also the team spirit, because if you are protecting yourself, in a way you are protecting the others. And if you repeat it at the level of a big company or even a country, at the end, the impact of COVID is, I would say, limited or reduced.
Thank you. And we have one question coming from Dennis Koskun, which is your recommendation for PM technology. So what is your recommendation? Is it Agile, Lean, DevOps, for portfolio, Jira? So so what kind of, I think, what kind of tools would you recommend for PM, for project managers in this current situation? So Monica, do you want to share your thoughts?
Sure. I would just say that there is no one size shoe fits all sort of a tool that I would have a recommendation for. It depends on the organizational needs. It depends on the project needs. We use Agile for some of the deliverables that we have, but in the past we have leveraged other tools as well. So unfortunately, there is not a magic wand that you can just swing around and then have a solution, but just see what is fit for purpose for the organizational needs at that particular point.
Thank you, Monica. Miguel, do you want to add to this?
I fully agree with Monica. So I used in the past Agile. Agile is I would say, one of the most popular systems which is used here in Spain. Not only in IT world, but also in other areas. And it's just spreading more and more. But I wouldn't say that this is the perfect technique for all situations. It's pretty much depending on the company, the organization, because behind these models, there is a philosophy. And sometimes this philosophy is not matching with the company or with the project itself.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think people talk about like managing projects in agile. It's not managing project in agile, it's being agile. So it's like it's a whole new philosophy. It's a state of being. So if you all the stakeholders around the project, if they are not having the same shared feeling or state of being agile, they cannot be agile as a team. Patrick, you want to add something to what has been said? Yeah.
Yes, I fully agree with what Monica and Miguel have just said. Because I would say beyond all of these tools, at first we should ensure that people are trained on project management. I like to say it because when you follow training with Jira, RAC, and etc., because I have used some of them, people forget that at first they have to understand what means scheduling, planning, risk management, and etc. And then only you can go with the tools and not the opposites. So as Miguel said, it's about philosophy, understanding that you have to make risk management with workshop, you do scheduling with the team, with joint planning session, we discuss predecessor, successor, and etc. Sorry. And then only you can think about the tools.
Yeah,
Great.
and I just want to put a plug in for Antonio's article, which I found very useful. Antonio has an article in HBR that I read just very recently as I was trying to understand the panel a little bit more around hierarchy of purpose. So it talks about the different P's. So I think, keeping that in mind and then coming to the tools, because tools are a means to get to a solution. So it's first understanding what is the hierarchy of purpose, what are you trying to do as an organization, and then going to the tools that you need to equip the organization. I mean, one might not, outside of the mindset piece, not only talking about the bigger things, agile, one could do a simple thing like pick chart analysis, which is very simple, right? To sort of see which projects are going to be impactful and which projects need to be progressed. But hierarchy of purpose, I think that's a great way to start, at least understanding that.
Thank you, Monica. I think we are coming close to the end of the seminar, but we do have one question, webinar, but we do have a question, which is, I think, more directed to Antonio. It's actually, you talked about reinventing PMO and reinventing project management. So this question comes from one of my friends, Vikas Talwar, based in Paris. So what are the skills that PPM and PMO specialists need in the near future to provide future project management services? I think you'll be, I think you can, Antonio, you can respond to this question.
Well, it's a long answer, so I will try to, it will need an hour. The panel will add to a lot of things, but I think we've talked about that a lot, the communication, the change management. I'd like to talk more about change management than communication, because for me, change management means you persuade people, you motivate them, you engage them. So I think the PMO, the bigger PMOs play a role both into the alignment with the strategy. I think that's where the value creation that we bring with the portfolio projects. And the second part is the coaching and mentoring. I remember when I started in this world 25 years ago, it was monitoring and controlling. That's what PMOs were doing. Today, we're talking about coaching, mentoring, building competencies, building that, what Miguel says, that safety, psychological safety, so that people can fail, you support them, you learn. So I think that that's a very good question, but I think we will need a whole new session, Mitun, if you want to have a full answer.
Absolutely. And to the other speakers in the panel, do you want anyone to quickly jump on this question to add to what Antonio has said before we wind up this session?
I would like just to relate this not only to project management, but to the change of the skills that the professionals will need. So basically, it's clear that the set of skills we will need in the companies will change. And this will affect to project management, but also to other areas in the company. So provided these new skills, we'll have just to adapt, we'll have even just to figure out, because probably some of them are still unknown, provided the uncertainty will have upfront.
Yeah, I just one quick comment here from me. I think since we're talking about like PMOs versus PPM tools, sometimes you don't have a formal PMO and sometimes you do. To me, it's about discipline in communication. To me, it's about communicating shared vision and then having an effective collaboration tool. Because in my experience, what I see is a lot of times. A lot of things get lost in translation or along the way because there is not one effective collaboration tool that is used throughout the organization to share the mission and to progress the goal. So if unification can be there on that and have a shared sense of purpose, then whether you are in a PMO or a PPM or part of the organization, you will be able to effectively deliver.
Thank you, Monica. Patrick, you want to add something?
Yes, it connects me with the need of the PMO to, I would say, reinvent himself or I would say itself for the future. But it also a strong need to work on, I would say, being ambassador of project management to senior levels, because we all know that when you start to reach the C-suite, it's very complicated to find, I would say, real former project managers. And that is one of the reasons why PMOs are also so much, I would say, challenged. And it's also complicated for PMO to be set up, I would say, more for the long term and then have the opportunity to be a voice for the change management, for building competencies, for being a tool of mentoring and development in general for the project management career.
Thank you. Absolutely. Yeah. Monica, you wanted to add something? Okay, great. Actually, yeah, love these ideas. I think we had a wonderful set of speakers with so much of wisdom, shared wisdom in this little group. I think we can talk for hours and hours, and this discussion can go on, and I think we'll stick. But the clock is ticking, and so we have to wind up our session now. I'll just list some of the key ideas I take from this session. So people before profits. We have to connect with people more. We have to be more human. We have to lead. We have to learn. We have to move the focus to benefits. So benefits related management. PMO hierarchy has to be completely restructured and evolved into more agile processes. We have to reinvent PMOs. We should fail faster, and we should keep accepting difficulties. We should be a PMO ambassador, and PMOs in the future should really add value to project strategy. They should be working more as facilitators rather than analysts. I think they would be more coaching, mentoring, building the safety, psychological safety in teams, which we really need so that we can make mistakes and we can learn, and we can still feel self-confident ourselves and also at the team level. Thank you everyone for joining this session, for to the audience for all your questions. I'm sorry we could not answer all the questions, but we definitely tried to answer as many as we could in this short period of time. There will be a next series of PPM Summit, which will be which is already announced on the website. So please go to the website of PPM Summits on the Y Summits page, and you can register to the next webinars. And I hope some of you can join us at the PPM World Tour in 2021 in all those cities. So I'm very thankful and grateful to all the speakers. So Patrick, Antonio, Miguel, Monica. Thanks to Thomas for being the technical wizard of this call, for managing everything and for making sure that everything was running on time. And thanks to Miro, Hornak, and Y Summits for getting us all together. And with this, I would say goodbye to fellow speakers and to everyone. Have a great day, great evening, wherever you are, and hope to see you in the next sessions very soon. Bye.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone.
See you.
Bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.